When it comes to everything fantasy football, you have to ask one question. Don't you deserve a fighting chance? And now, welcome to Fighting Chance Live with your hosts, Kevin Tompkins and Scott Fishbowl 9 winner, Gary Haddow.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Fighting Chance Live on a Tuesday in this economy. It's happening. I am Kevin Tompkins of FightingChanceFantasy.com. To my right, as always, the vivacious, I assume he's wearing an undershirt this week, Gary Haddow. Gary, my friend, how are you?
You got a steel trap memory over there. Dude, I'm doing fantastic. I love these beautiful Tuesday night podcasts. It's reminiscent of the Bills Titans game, and I won some money on that. So maybe off this podcast, I'll win some money.
There you go. There you go. And tonight we got Mr. Troy King, Mr. 93% himself. My man, I told Linda I was going to drop that in. I'm so sorry, man. But, it's the Dolphins. I got to do what you got to do. But, Troy, my man, how are you?
I'm doing well. One, you're not sorry. You don't gotta lie to me. You're not sorry for that. And I was yesterday was brutal, man. I was tortured all day. I deserved it though. I talked a lot of junk. So Linda had a victory laps, but yeah, I can't believe that happened. But it was funny though.
I don't think the entire NFL was ready for that to happen. It was shocking.
Oh my gosh, I know. And y'all see my Abby, right? It's terrible.
I almost put it in the corner of this overlay, not gonna lie. If I had a little bit more time, I would have thrown that in there, but it is what it is. But yeah, Troy, so tell us what you're doing on the internet. Tell us where we can find you. And floor's yours.
Sure. So y'all can find me at T King Mode on Twitter. I am a writer for BallBlast Football. I also pod with my friends John Bauer, Mitch Sorensen, and Linda G on Fantasy Football Confidential. We go live on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Wednesday. So YouTube, Twitter, y'all can check us out. And those are the main things I do, man. So I appreciate everybody who's been rocking with me and supporting me up to now. So.
Who's the best Twitter follower? The best Twitter follow? I wonder why your avatar inside. I was like, oh shit.
Well, if we basing it off my Avi, it's Lindellians on Twitter. That's Linda G. Okay, just for people who don't know, I lost the bet. I bet that Miami was going to beat the Broncos. Unfortunately, it did not. I did a poll, 880 votes. 93% went with the Dolphins and 7% went with Broncos. Unfortunately, Dolphins lost, and I had to hear about it for pretty much over 24 hours. So, yeah.
I will fully admit I am a 93%er. I thought that was going to be just a shellacking.
Me too.
It is what it is.
I had the Dolphins defense in like 90% of my DFS lineups. Like thinking, oh my god, they're gonna smash. So
they should have. It's all good.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. So we'll move on from that. We'll get past that. This will be the last time we mention that until maybe like an hour from now when we end it. So let's get into some Thanksgiving slate. We got some Thanksgiving football. I can't believe it's already that time of year, and we're on the way to Xmas, to Christmas, and everything. It's wild how this year has flown by. So probably to me, I mean, different strokes for different folks, but to me, the most entertaining game of this Thanksgiving, Houston at Detroit. So I think Houston, you're pretty much firing up everybody. You know, Deshaun Watson, Fuller, Cooks. Right now, I'd say Jordan Akins has pretty much separated himself from Darren Fells there. But Duke Johnson, I mean, say what you want about Duke. I mean, he came out with high hopes when David Johnson kind of ceded that job to him with injury. Do you have any kind of confidence in Duke Johnson right now to do anything? I mean, this is Detroit. We know, teams can do some things on offense against Detroit, but how do you feel about Duke Johnson, Troy?
We've been playing this Duke Johnson game for far too long. We keep falling for this trap, and people and all the Duke Johnson truthers are like, if he ever got the full opportunity, he would smash. And he's had the full opportunity, and he has not looked good. We've been saying this since Cleveland. I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan, so I'm a Duke Johnson guy. And unfortunately, he's been disappointed. There's a reason he's in his role. He's more efficient in it. And obviously the last 2 weeks, he's getting an opportunity. He hasn't done anything. So he's a starting running back. So they're hard to come by nowadays. So unless you have better options, you're most likely going to have to play him. Maybe as a flex. Hopefully you don't have to rely on him as like your RB2. But if he's still a decent flex option, because there is a possibility he could get into the end zone. He still could get catches, but just temper your expectation, because obviously he hasn't really shown us anything.
Yeah, he's the prime example of why during draft season you don't draft your handcuffs and just think that they're just going to sit on your bench and pop. Madison didn't really. He's had like one good game. Like Duke, never been a ton. Mike Davis is probably a difference maker, but you didn't draft him, so I don't know. It's such a crapshoot when it comes to backups, and when it comes to Duke, I will probably put him in like one DFS lineup just in case something happens. But other than that, no, man. This is Watson's team. And I actually think this is Brandon Cook's team now. He seems to be the go-to, and dude's on fire right now. Will Fuller, he's great, but Brandon Cooks has actually taken over the Will Fuller role from last year, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, he's healthy. So, I mean, Brandon Cooks healthy is a stud. And, it's think of all the teams that, have had him, the Saints, Rams, Patriots, and now he's on his fourth team. And how many years? 7 years now. And, this might be where he sticks here, because when he's healthy, he's just an absolute stud and a wide receiver too. But yeah, Duke Johnson, I mean, he's a back end RB2, and basically you're just looking for him to get in the end zone. Yeah. That's why you're playing him. And then maybe just a few catches to gather that floor. And then on the other side, you got Detroit, where Kenny Golladay did not practice again today with that hip injury. So likely, barring something wild, he's probably not playing. So we're getting back to Marvin Jones. We're getting back to Marvin Hall and TJ Hawkinson. And likely DeAndre Swift is going to be back. So, Gary, what do you think about DeAndre Swift against this Houston? I mean, is this just an absolute smash RB1 spot here?
He is in contention for the number one spot for the Thursday slate. I mean, it's between him, Gibson, and probably even Zeke, coming back in. There's only 6 games, obviously. I don't really trust anybody in the Baltimore Pitt game that we'll get to. So I actually think it's between Swift and Gibson for probably the running back one. My concern, though, is Stafford. What the hell happened last week? Like, putting up a goose egg for the entire team, getting shut out against the Panthers. Like, I don't know. I wonder how much of it was his thumb, and they already knew it was going to be banged up, but that was terrible. There's only one person other than Swift, I'm very confident in. I think that this is going to be a smash TJ Hawkinson game. I think Marvin Jones will get the I can never remember his first name, Roby. He's going to have Roby on him, and not that Roby's shut down by any means, but it's a little bit of a tougher matchup, and so I think Swift and Hawk are the place to go here.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Gary, you lulled us into that.
Every time, man.
Man, it's beautiful. So let's get over to Washington at Dallas. So with the old football teamers there, I mean, you're starting McLaurin, you're starting Gibson, you're starting McKissick. But McKissick has kind of fallen off a little bit, Troy. We saw him get 10 targets in the first half of week 10, was it? So I mean, McKissick is still probably a bottom end RB2 for you, but I mean, I don't really see much upside as is right now for him.
It was an outlier. So last week he only had 3 receptions and 4 targets, and it was bizarre. I'm thinking to myself, because I played him in a few spots. I'm like, anyone who's getting as many targets as him, he's like an auto start. So last week was definitely an anomaly. I mean, the way the game went, obviously it was more of a Gibson game. He had a really solid game, but normally it seemed like for the past couple of weeks they've both been producing. Like they've been both reliable. So last week it was very odd. I wasn't expecting that, but kind of like you mentioned, I think McKissick is going to be solid. And the obvious people, Gibson, Terry, like their auto starts, like you don't got to worry about them. Logan Thomas, I was disappointed. Like he got a decent amount, like enough targets for a tight end to produce more than he did. He didn't have a great game, but he's just kind of like any other streaming tight end. You're just hoping for a touchdown and a decent amount of receptions, but yeah, I'm desperate in some leagues, so you might have to play him. So that's what you're just hoping for. Hoping he gets in the end zone. Hopefully he gets, with tight ends nowadays, if you get like 4 for 40, you're very happy. So
I will say that I hope people fade McKissick this week. I think it was a game script, and I will say I think that Dallas is going to be on the upswing. They're going to be, I think, back to being not a Dak-led offense, but they are going to be a good offense, and I think McKissick is going to be much more involved this week.
Yeah, for sure. Are you guys streaming Alex Smith this week against Dallas?
I don't know.
Yeah. if you have a super flex, maybe, but I'm hoping you have a better option though.
Yeah,
That's little too muddy.
Yeah.
And there's no teams on bye, so there's no teams on bye this week, I don't believe. So if you, hopefully your roster is good enough where you don't have to play Alex Smith.
There's no teams on bye.
No,
it's so weird.
And then Tampa and Carolina for week 13. So it's weird. Yeah. It's probably just because of the Thanksgiving, or because of
I guess either that or maybe they moved some COVID stuff around. I don't know. Like
it's really weird the scheduling.
I was wondering how Baltimore and Pittsburgh ended up at this week, but I guess their other game was week 8. Yeah, you're probably right. They just wanted to get everybody there for Thanksgiving games. So fair enough.
Sure. Absolutely. And then we'll go into Dallas here. So, I mean, Andy Dalton, he's probably a little better bench to Nucci and Gary Gilbert. So, you're certainly not expecting any kind of fireworks from the Dallas offense, but, with the guys they have, you can expect a little bit more out of them and, saw that a little bit. Zeke is not what we've expected Zeke to be, but he's still, obviously you have to start him. CeeDee Lamb is fantastic. Mari Cooper. Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz is the one guy through all these quarterback changes who has been relatively consistent throughout, all these quarterbacks. So I really like him as a streamer. Any other notes on Dallas, Troy?
I would say that you're still going to play. I feel like CeeDee Lamb, you still have confidence in your wide receivers. I thought, obviously, in Dalton's first game, he looked absolutely atrocious, but last week he looked competent. The whole Dallas offense looked competent. So I believe that if you have them on your roster, at least you're not, crying yourself to sleep by putting him in your lineup now. At least I'm not going to say confident, but now you can actually play them. So that's a positive coming out of last week.
Yeah,
I think Dallas is going to win the division, and I was shocked when I was looking back at the numbers and typing this up. I was like, CeeDee Lamb is a total wide receiver 1 moving forward, no question. 3 for 40, 4 for 34, and a touchdown. Like I felt like that dude had like 15 targets, and he was like 9 for like 120, and it blew me away when I saw that he only had 4 receptions. So I think it's just because every reception he makes just looks so beautiful.
I agree with that.
Gary, fire up that notepad because we got a bet going right now.
All right, let's do it.
You said the Cowboys are going to win the division?
Yeah, who do you think?
New York Giants.
Yeah, that's the debate here, but no, I'm good.
Come on.
No, I agree with you. I am taking this bet. We do $5 bets. Charity bets. So
I need a bell. Awesome. That's what we need. We need the fantasy, the 06010, put it on the board.
Right.
The Field Yates ding is what we need. So the other game here, and with COVID, pretty much decimating the Baltimore Ravens here. Who knows if this even happens? But as of now, Baltimore at Pittsburgh. So look at Gary writing the Baltimore COVID's on the show doc.
I like that. Very nice.
They came out and they had 10 total people. They had 5 players and 5 staff members come out, and they were like, well, it wasn't all just based on the testing today. Why weren't we notified of the other players? Like, I'm so confused by this. Why was it just Ingram and Dobbins that are notified? Which, by the way, Gus Bus, boop, boop. Dude,
we all on board with that?
It's going to be amazing.
Well, I am on board. So here's the thing. Pittsburgh ain't no joke. But the problem is that, when Gus Bus, what about Justice Hill? I'm joking. I'm not playing Justice Hill. But he's going to.
Linda might.
Linda, oh yeah, I don't know those leagues that she has. She mentioned that, I was like, good Lord. But Gus Bus is based off of volume. I believe he's going to be a solid play, but obviously it's Pittsburgh's D, so we have to take that into consideration.
Yeah. I think that Snead gets a bump. I think that some of the dump offs that would have gone to Dobbins, you're not going to necessarily be passing as much to Gus. Again, maybe Justice Hill is in there a little bit more, but we know Nick Boyle is also out. So it's going to be Goose Egg, Hollywood Brown, Mark Mandrews, and then it's Willie Snead. And I mean, Willie Snead's he's actually done really well the last like 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, Willie Snead's got a 22% target share the last 4 weeks.
It's insane.
I mean, I think at this point, I mean, are you guys dropping Hollywood Brown? Even though he has this fantastic playoff schedule, how long have people waited to get something out of Hollywood Brown? Marquise Brown. He doesn't get his nickname. So until he does something, he is Marquise Brown. Is he still on your rosters? I mean, anywhere that you have him? I mean, I've tinkered with, wanting to drop him. I just can't bring myself to do it.
I am going into the season, I was a Hollywood Brown, or Marquise Brown truther. And I the way I was getting him in drafts, I'm like, this is a steal. Like, I thought he was going to at least be a high-end wide receiver too. That's what I thought I was getting, because in the first game of the season, he looked like it. I'm like, yes, it's panning out. And then he's been trash, but I feel like a lot of it has to do with Lamar. Earlier in the season, he was just missing him on so many passes. And then I thought he was going to have a squeaky wheel game. After he started complaining, that never happened. And last week, goose egged me, and I lost matchups because of him. And, so I'm salty, and I believed in him. The whole Ravens offense just does not look the same. Like, I don't know what's going on, but it's been extremely disappointing. So you don't need to keep him on your roster. I'm personally not dropping him. Maybe I'm delusional, but you don't have to keep him on your roster.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at. That fifth and sixth round, I swear, between him, Cam Akers, and Michael Gallup are like the 3 guys I drafted wherever I could. If I was doing 0 RB, I would take Cam Akers as my RB1, or RB2, depending if I had a first round, first 4 pick. But God, between Gallup and Hollywood Brown, no thanks. So let's get into the Sunday slate here. We've got Miami, Troy's Miami. At what?
Pittsburgh.
What'd I do? Oh, did we skip Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
It's like they're undefeated or something. So we just assume they're gonna win. Good Lord.
You just jinxed them, dude.
That's okay. I'm all right. I'm not the biggest Steelers guy anyway, but yeah. I mean, right now, it's looking like it's going to be Juju being iffy, with his injury. It's going to be James Washington, Eric Ebron, I would say, would get a bit of a bump there. When Deontay Johnson is healthy, we saw that little stretch where he would leave after 2 snaps and then never come back again that game. And then he maybe.
You mean the James Conner? He pulled the James Conner.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, speaking of James Conner, let's talk about him, because he's had these smash spots, and yeah, he was pretty solid last week, but I mean, James Conner gets his Baltimore defense. I mean, what can you do with him? I mean, you got to start him, but I mean, temper expectations, right, Troy? I mean, he's probably an RB2 for me.
Yeah, I would say he's probably a solid RB2, but the thing about it is, like, I don't know what's going on where, like, Benny Snell's getting the goal line work, and he's not getting as many snaps as I thought. I guess maybe they're just limiting him because they're scared of injury. I'm not sure what the case is, but I feel like he's a solid play, but I was expecting higher upside with Conner. Like, he's decent, but I've kind of been disappointed with his usage recently. But maybe that's just me personally, but I was expecting better from Conner.
Can we just address something? We moved on from Juju really quickly. Juju got himself hurt stepping on a flag, right?
That was, yeah.
What?
I was trying to put some respect on the man's name, Gary. I was trying to put some respect on his name.
Like, everybody saw it was like, did he just like hurt himself walking off the field? And you're like, wait, I think he rolled himself on the little like ball that's the flag. I don't know. That was just one of the weirdest football injuries I've ever seen. I had to make sure it was mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been worse. It could have been Brandon Marshall slipping on a McDonald's bag.
Oh my God.
I mean, that's an all-timer there. But yeah, I mean, James Conner, it's tough because you have all these receivers, and clearly Pittsburgh, I mean, they want to throw the ball. They're throwing out of empty sets a lot. They're putting Connor out there. They're throwing in the slot with all these receivers. But I mean, when you have Claypool and Juju and Deontay Johnson and Eric Ebron and all these awesome targets, I mean, it's easy for a guy like James Conner to just get lost in the weeds there. So, I mean, you drafted him probably in the third round, maybe even the high second as this, borderline RB1, that would pretty much have the job to himself. But now Benny Snell has looked a lot better. We saw in the one start that he did get, he was pretty good and then kind of fell a little bit back into that role, but he's getting a little bit more usage week in and week out. So he's pretty much been a vulture in the thorn in the side of James Conner. James Conner just can't get out of the way of how that offense is running. And we've known Pittsburgh to be that running offense, and now they're a passing team, and they're going to be till as long as Ben's there.
Third highest neutral game script passing team. So they're giving the ball to Roth and letting him do it. And I mean, God, Deontay, Claypool, and Juju is, if not the best wide receiving core in the NFL, it's definitely top 3. Man, you guys just every time, man.
Gary, I could listen to you read the phone book, Gary.
Let's move on to Miami, the beloved Miami Dolphins, who, by the way, I just have to say, Troy, you can ask Kevin, I was all about the Dolphins. I love what they were doing in the offseason, and it was just like, they're like a year away from being very, very competitive. I didn't realize it would be this year. I get why they put in Tua. I think that if they had kept Fitz in, I actually think they would have gotten pretty deep into the playoffs. I don't know if Tua is going to be able to do that for them this year, but next year, when they have Jamar Chase, they're going to be crushing.
Oh, I hope that's the case. Oh my God, I'd be so ecstatic. But
that's sexy.
Oh my gosh.
All right, but we'll go into this week's game. So with Miami, I'll take the lead here. I want to know, what do you do with Tua? Like, I assume that Tua is going to be back in. Like Fitz, he came in and Tua was benched. That was actually said by Flores. It wasn't an injury. Is this an amazing matchup against the Jets? Like, is Tua someone that you're willing to start?
Me personally, I actually prefer not to start Tua if I don't have to. Even I was about this though, even before like his benching, just because when they made the switch in terms of from Fitz to Tua, like I believe in Tua's future. I just feel like for his rookie season, just the way he's been playing and just what I've seen in terms of researching the team and seeing his practices and doing things like that, just for me, just being a Dolphins fan, I'm a huge Tua guy. I was so excited when we drafted him, but I didn't think he was going to pull a Justin Herbert, right? I didn't expect him just to step into the offense and just light it up. I expected a slow start. The fact that, we were before last week, he was undefeated as a starter. Like, I was surprised by that. I wasn't expecting the Dolphins to be competitive this year, especially with Tua. I thought we were going to lose all those games. Just being transparent, I did not expect us to win.
Totally. I think a lot of people felt the same way, especially when you think they had Howard, he's cut. They had Breida, he was injured. I mean, he's just Breida. And then they now have undrafted rookie Salvin Ahmed, like from the Niners, who now got picked up by them. And the dude looks great. And then with Preston Williams injured, like everything just fell into place for them to just be a shitty team, at least from a win-loss perspective. But that defense is legit. Holy shit. What did they say? Was it 21 games, 16 games that they've gone straight with a turnover? Like the defense is awesome. It only got better in the offense in the offseason. I'm going to be on this high horse. They're a team of if this year they're not this year's Titans, next year they are going to be that team that they do a couple more building in the offseason, get some draft picks in there. They're going to be playoff contenders is a strong word, but they are going to be deep run playoff team.
Oh, I agree. And just like you said, the defense, I mean, we need to shore up our O-line. I feel like Tua got sacked a lot. I mean, some of it was on him, but a lot of it was on our offensive line. They just weren't protecting him. Bad decisions by him. It's all around. I think the main thing, again, I think we need a wide receiver to complement. We're still going to have Parker. I believe if we could draft a wide receiver, I wouldn't be surprised if we draft a running back. and focus on O-line. Our defense is pretty solid, so I don't know if we need to make too many moves next year for that. I feel like this year was a really big defensive, focus and with our offseason moves. So I'm excited about the future. This year, we'll see. I mean, again, we should win this week, but we should have won last week. So we'll see what happens. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then let's go over to the Jets here. So, a winless team, but there's some light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, we're looking at guys like Denzel Mims. They're starting to, show why they were higher picks. Look at Brashad Perryman, who now, he had a touchdown last week. I believe it was a 49-yarder. That could be a spot where Brashad Perryman is just going to be that massively high A-dot receiver that's just going to be boomer bust, like, the Marquez Valdes-Scantling of his day. We could see that here. But other than that, I mean, Jamison Crowder, you're going to start. He's got just an absurdly high floor. Michael P. Ryan, I believe, was an ankle sprain. Was it high ankle? So he's going to be out for a couple weeks. I mean, Dusty Frank Gore. I don't even know what you say at this point.
The man, the myth, the legend. I love that there was an article that was coming out that the Jets are hoping that Gore gets to play with his son. They are like, we want him to play for 4 more years until Junior can get drafted by the Jets, apparently. Like, he will be 41. Like, no running backs play over 40. That's just crazy. But also Frank Gore is immortal. So,
yeah. I wouldn't doubt Frank Gore. If anyone could do it, it's going to be him or Adrian Peterson. Who knows? Those two, man.
Right. If you guys haven't seen Denzel Mims catches, anybody that's listening or you two, go back and watch his catches, dude. Dude, look like
they're beautiful.
He's got the juice. Like he's going to be a fantastic wide receiver. If the Jets can get out of their way, get rid of Gase, get either a QB or just get rid of Gase, and all of a sudden they'll be winning Super Bowls if they get rid of Gase. Probably. Look at the Dolphins.
I mean, everything is better when Gase is not involved.
Yes.
I mean, case in point, Kalen Ballage. That's all I'm going to say.
Oh my God, he looks good.
It's crazy. Good. It's crazy.
That is 2020 in a nutshell.
Totally. All right, so let's move on. Arizona at New England. I think people are looking forward to this game, if nothing less than just to see what Arizona is going to do against the Patriots, who look like a little bit of a shell of themselves. So, on Arizona, you're playing Murray, you're playing Hopkins. I want to know how you feel about Drake and Edmonds, Troy. Who is your preferred start, and are you starting both of them?
This is a tough one. I feel like early on, it was Edmonds was the easy answer, but Drake has looked decent since coming back from injury. So I'm going to say Drake. I'll go Drake because even though Edmonds obviously still involved in the pass game, Drake has looked better. So, yeah, again, he's still the starting running back, even though we all want Edmonds to be. Drake is still the starter. So I'm going to go with Drake.
All right. And Kevin, do you think this is going to be a bounce back game for Christian Kirk where we get to see where he was getting on fire, especially if Gilmore's on Hopkins?
I mean, he's not quite MVS coin flip territory, but he's still he's close to it. I mean, you still got to start him. He's a wide receiver 3 with variance. That's pretty much what Christian Kirk is and probably will be for the majority of his career unless just something crazy happens. But, yeah, I mean, we saw Larry Fitzgerald just dust himself off a little bit last week too. The immortal Larry Fitzgerald. So, but maybe that took a little bit of his those targets away. But, yeah, Christian Kirk should be fine. I mean, deep shots, that's pretty much the name of his game, hoping to hit on one.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. What about on the other side of the ball? So we obviously have Cam Newton. We'll just start there. Are you guys willing to play Cam Newton?
Yes, I will be willing to play Cam Newton. Preferably in Superflex leagues. Like I have him going in a bunch of them. So I'm decently confident there. In 1 QB leagues, I would say that, you know what? But here's the thing. I'm hoping you have a better option because, again, no teams are on bye. I don't know what everyone's roster looks like, obviously, but I think he's a decent play. You could do worse than Cam Newton.
I mean, he has one thing going for him, and that's his wide receiver revenge game. Demir Bird, man, going up against his long lost love, the Arizona Cardinals.
Oh my gosh,
Gary, if you slander Jacoby Myers one more time, I'm booting you.
No, I mean, obviously Jacoby Myers is there, and I wanted to say, are you going to be chasing any points with Demir Bird?
Nah. Last week was an anomaly. I don't know what happened. Yeah, taking all Myers' points. I was pissed. Nah.
I honestly believe that's going back to Roby on the Texans. I've said this all along that I think that Roby tends to take away some of their stronger wide receivers, and then their second guy goes off, unless it's like Devontae Adams or something who's uncoverable. But Jacoby Myers. So you're going to be starting Jacoby Myers in this?
Yeah.
All right. And then what are we going to do with the running backs? So for anybody that hasn't seen, Rex Burkhead, torn ACL, out for the season. So it looks like Sony Michel is going to be back in. Plus we have James White and Damian Harris. So it's just as murky as it was before. Rank those three running backs going into this game and say if who you would actually start.
James White, Harris, Sony.
Ooh, I wasn't expecting you to go James White. That's exciting. Why James White?
I agree with that.
Because I believe that they're not going to use Sony as a pass catcher. I believe that he's going to cannibalize Harris, because when Rex Burkhead was used kind of like as a rusher and catching the ball.
Yeah.
But now with James White, he might get like 3 carries, but he's going to be just a pass catching. Harris, we know he doesn't catch any passes. So I believe that Harris and Sony Michel cancel each other out. And then James White, especially we saw I don't know if it's going to be the same kind of game script as last week, but we know who's going to be involved in the passing game. James White, and I'm most of the time going to lean towards who's going to be the pass catcher. And we already know James White's role, so I'm going to go him first.
Yeah, I could totally see Sony Michel being that hammer because they used Burkhead quite a bit in the goal line stuff too, and they schemed touches for him there. So, that aspect is certainly up for grabs. I could see, Damian Harris and Sony split there, at least giving Michel a bit of a role, and let him build off of that if he shows anything more. Then it's tough with Damian Harris, who's, we know Patriots running backs, ad nauseum. You can't predict anything. Damian Harris has been the guy who, for the last month has been pretty damn solid. And I don't know, it just shook over my head right now. I'm hoping the bathtub doesn't just drop behind me now. At least I have a good gif of it.
It's the Wentz haters preparing for later.
That's that's if I talk shit about Carson Wentz being in Fargo. So, can't predict the Patriots backfield. This could be just something weird where Sony Michel gets like 15 carries and Damian Harris picks up the scraps. James White's, now that Burkhead's not there, I'd say that's a pretty locked in role for him as, the pass catcher. What we've been accustomed to seeing out of James White for a while now.
All right, so let's move on. Carolina at Minnesota. Kevin, I have the question posed to you. Do you think this is going to be a PJ or Teddy week? And who do you think it should be if both were healthy?
Teddy's going to be back, so it's going to be Teddy. But as the PJ Walker truther in every single one of my dynasty leagues where I took him in the last round, personal interest, I would love to see PJ Walker get a shot in that offense. But money talks, so I think Teddy's going to be able to he's going to hold on to that unless something happens to him.
Troy, do you think Teddy should be the starter? I'm just curious if you guys thought PJ outplayed him.
No, I think Teddy should be the starter. I think PJ had a great week last week. I feel like he looked solid, but I feel like if Teddy's healthy, he's had a good season. Like, I gotta give Teddy credit. Like, he has overall looked pretty good this season. Like, he's been his, normal conservative self, but he's been pretty good in terms of his deep balls. Like, he's taken shots. He's made the offense go. Like, and maybe like Joe Brady and Rule, like, I feel like they might be playing factors in the whole offensive scheme. I don't know. Just Teddy, he looked better than I expected him to look. So I feel like if he's healthy, he should be the guy.
Joe Brady totally getting a head coaching job next year.
Oh, yeah.
That's my opinion. It'll be interesting to see that offense without Joe Brady. But so DJ Moore doubters have been eating crow. The dude's just been on fire lately. He's just showing up. I feel like he's just been playing a lot differently than we would expect it. It was a lot more of dink and dunk last year, and he was getting the yardage, and now he's chunk play after chunk play and just going after it. So when it comes to Curtis Samuel and Robbie Anderson, who is your preferred start? We'll go with this week, and I want to know rest of. Somebody gave you a heads up, Curtis Samuel for Robbie Anderson. Which side would you take?
I gotta go Curtis Samuel. I feel like, and it's crazy because Robbie was the guy for so many weeks, but they are purposely for the last few weeks, like they are intentionally scheming up plays and doing things to get Curtis Samuel the ball, whether it's handing it off to him, passing it to him, like they are trying to get him involved as much as possible. And the dude's been scoring. He's looked great. Like, and I made a joke about how in the beginning of the season, Brady and Rule said they were going to do this. Now, for what most of the season that didn't come to fruition, so we thought they were lying, and then they all of a sudden like, hey, okay, we're gonna start doing it now. And Curtis Samuel, he's doing now what everyone's wanted him to do for like the past however many years. So, and I think that it's only going to continue. It's gone on for the last 3-4 weeks, and I believe it's going to continue. And then Robbie Anderson's been fading. It's either Robbie having a bad game or DJ Moore having a bad game. For the past couple of weeks, Curtis Samuel has been consistent, so I got to go him.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen it, week 8. I'll call it the Seth Roberts factor because they released him. It took a lot of those, he was kind of splitting in the slot with Curtis Samuel. And now we know Matt Rule was talking about, Curtis Samuel. He wanted, make sure he's a focal point. And that was before the season started, and it took him 8 weeks to do it. But now that he's doing it, I mean, you got to take him over Robbie Anderson. They're manufacturing touches and making sure he's getting into space and being involved. And what more do you want? I mean, Matt Harmon's out here pouring glasses here and just kicking his feet up from reception perception, talking about Curtis Samuel last year. And now it took a year and a half, but here we are.
So I'm just going to agree with that. All of a sudden, I just realized what Troy constantly has been saying. Like, there's no bye weeks this week. And I was like, holy shit, we have 9 more games to go through. So Mike Davis, you're obviously starting him RB2. I doubted him last week. He's back. He's RB2. Don't even question it. Minnesota, I feel terrible doing this. Adam Thielen's on the COVID reserve list. Hopefully he plays. I don't think there's anything else to talk about here. Like, I think that Jefferson's a start. Cook is a start. Kirk Cousins, he's a streamer. Like you probably will, if you're in a position where you need to play him, you're comfortable playing him. If you don't need to play him, you're probably not in that question. You know what I mean? Like he's at that range. Any debate there?
No, okay. I'm not touching the tight ends either.
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna anyway. Cleveland at Jacksonville. All I gotta say is, man, Chuba, like, dude. Nick Chubb is going to crush, and I am so excited. He this season has become my favorite running back in the NFL. It's not even a question. Like, watching him run, he's so fucking good. He's just so good. I don't understand how they gave Hunt as many touches, even though I think Hunt is an incredible running back. Do you think that Hunt is going to stay relevant?
I think he is. I mean, because you know what? It's just the way the offense goes. Like, even though Chubb's obviously the main guy, they are a running team, and they kept Hunt. They gave Hunt the extension for a reason. They plan on using him, and for whatever reason, he's always involved in the passing game. So, or last week, not so much, but for the most part, he's known as the pass catching back. Yeah. So I believe that he's still going to be very involved. I don't see him being phased out. Again, Chubb's great, but you know what? They're going – and also Chubb is just coming off an injury. So I think that's also going to play a factor into Hunt's usage. So I think at least for the rest of this season, he's still going to be very relevant.
Totally. Kevin, what do you think about Baker this week? Finally playing without, in theory, shitty weather.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's pretty much been holding this team's passing offense back. So Jarvis Landry, I mean, he's a solid-ish play. I mean, he's got the high floor, but doesn't really have much of a ceiling. But He is what he is. I'm actually more interested in the lower end on Kadero Hodge. Him and Higgins have been kind of splitting a little bit, but Kadero Hodge has led the team in snaps and snap share. And he just had a ridiculous 8 out last week of 23. I mean, they're looking to him deep. That's a guy where you could maybe get a coin flip and play in some DFS, as just as a punt play at wide receiver. And, against Jacksonville, who can't cover anybody, give me that all day long. If he's like 2,500, I will be happy to play Kadero Hodge there.
I'm just learning how to spell his name as we speak.
We'll get to that in the spelling bee in the offseason.
That's the list. Jacksonville. Actually, sorry. No, I don't even care. So Jacksonville, James Robinson, if he doesn't auto start, right? Like,
yeah,
dude, I actually think that James Robinson's probably the fantasy MVP through this season relative to where he wasn't even drafted. But that's for another show. Minshew, is he going to start?
I don't think they. So I mean, Luton gives him a better chance at a better draft pick. So you might as well just keep him going.
Yeah,
that's wild because I feel like the follow-up question would be who gives him a better chance to win. So you think Minshew is the better chance to win?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I definitely do, but whatever reason they don't. I think they're trying to see what they have in Luton. I think we've seen enough, but the Jags might, want to give him more games. And again, they're losing. That's better for them overall. Clearly, none of them are going to be the starting quarterback next year. So, yeah.
I think you're probably starting Chark just if you have him. You don't have to, but I want to know about Keelan Cole just real quick. Is he someone that you're willing to fit into your lineups given the matchup against Cleveland?
I prefer not to unless you're in a really deep league.
Yeah, he's not very exciting. I mean, doesn't do anything.
98-yard touchdown. Touchdown run against really some scrub defensive team.
Cool, Gary.
All right, moving on from Packers hatred. So Titans at Indy. I'm more excited about this game from a real football perspective. I was not expecting. This is not even a dig. Like I was not expecting anybody was for what Rivers did and the Colts did last week. Like that was crazy. So let's start with Tennessee real quick. It is a tough matchup. You're starting Derrick Henry and you're starting AJ Brown. Those are auto starts, no question. Don't ever think twice about it. What about Ryan Tannehill against this Colts defense?
So
is he top 12? We'll go with top 12.
No. And I feel weird because Tannehill, every time I doubt him, he normally performs. So, and the thing, we always doubt Tannehill, like, no, he's not going to do it. But he's always so freaking efficient, man. So I'm going to say no, but I would not be surprised if I'm wrong about this.
Does Jonnu play this week? I haven't actually seen anything about him.
I hope so. I mean, no. I mean, I think he has a good chance to play. And last week he was actually getting targets, which I was pleasantly surprised on because previously he was getting like 2-3 targets a game. So last week he's actually getting more involved, which I don't know what took so long. They kept targeting Ferks or whatever. But last week was a pleasant surprise for Jonnu. Hopefully that streak continues. But I'm optimistic that he's going to play based off of what I've seen, or I haven't seen anything, in terms of injury reports or whatever. So I don't know. Hopefully he plays.
And Corey Davis, he's a flex.
Yeah.
I think he's just fully a flex. Like he has a floor and it sucks, but I think in general he also has a ceiling. So is there anyone that I'm missing?
I want to throw in a note about Tannehill too. Is something very interesting, and it really it makes sense when you look at it. I mean, losing Taylor Lewan after week 6, he is really just fallen off a cliff. I mean, he had that 366-yard game against Houston, and then, granted, the schedule is not great. Then he played Pittsburgh. He had that kind of gap game in Cincinnati, and then Chicago, Indianapolis, Baltimore, Indianapolis again. It's kind of a gauntlet there, but I mean, these are teams that can attack you with their pass rush, and losing your left tackle, your franchise guy. I mean, that's got to say something. And look at what he's done. I mean, it certainly affected him. It certainly affected his upside.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's affected his upside, but on the flip of that, after the Colts, he then gets the Browns, Jags, Lions, Packers, and Texans. So that's a pretty fantastic end to the season. So if you got him, maybe you're holding him this week, but you're probably going to be starting him a lot moving forward. So moving on to Indianapolis, is Jonathan Taylor, was this his ascension to being a thing, or was it just the Green Bay's running defense?
I don't trust the Colts. I don't trust Frank Wright. Like every time we think somebody's the lead runner, next week it's completely different. Like I thought it was going to be a Hines week. We saw that report that was going to be a Hines week. Clearly that didn't happen. We've seen flashes from JT in the past, but for whatever reason, he doesn't get the full workload. And then we've seen Jordan Wilkins weeks. So we just don't know what they're going to do. If you have Jonathan Taylor, you're not sitting him, but you just have to remember that the Colts are liars. We don't know what his good usage is going to be. He's going to get enough work to obviously be relevant, but we can't expect him just to break out just yet. I mean, I need to see it. Like maybe next week if he goes off, then I'll buy in. But these 1 week things, I'm not going to get too excited until I see some consistency.
I love that the Colts are liars. That was my favorite thing through all that. I mean, they are, though. I mean, they spread the ball everywhere, and then just, you can't pick a fantasy relevant option out of their receiving game except one. I mean, we're going to talk about him in a sec, Gary.
And that is, let's just
my man who I wanted Green Bay to draft more than anything, Michael Pittman.
It's wild thinking that they drafted Pittman ahead of Jonathan Taylor, right? I think that a lot of people forget that Pittman was the 33rd pick, 34th pick in the draft. Like, dude, he reminds you of Vincent Jackson, who Rivers loved, except for he's the young version that's not as just constrained by Vincent Jackson. Just run as far as you can. That was
that's a good comp. I like that comp.
Yeah. I mean, it's perfect. Absolutely. 100%.
Michael Pittman, shout out to Warren Kiesling, and in my beer league, he was all about him and pumping him, especially in DFS. I had him in a bunch of lineups, so thank you for that. But I definitely thought Jair was going to be on him, and it worked out that he had that touchdown. I just want to take this quick interlude just to say, holy shit, rookie wide receivers this year. We talked about it going into the season, but we also talked about the running backs going into the season. The running backs have been whatever, but the wide receivers, as far back as I can remember, probably what was it, the 2015-16 season, whenever, these rookie wide receivers, I mean, we're at week 11 and they are showing up and making a difference and they look awesome. And that was without Rager even being around, without Jimmy being there to at least unleash Ayuk. So there's so much more to come with these guys. It's fantastic. Quick question: Ryan Tannehill or Phillip Rivers for this matchup? Who are you taking? One word answer.
Rivers.
Tannehill.
Ooh, okay. We'll see. I am leaning Tannehill, but I just flipped my answer to Rivers as I'm saying that because the Titans defense sucks ass. They're terrible. New York Giants at Cincinnati. I still don't really know what to make of the Giants offense. They just seem like the most mediocre of mediocre. And that means that they were just going to be the Jeff Fisher, 8-8 type thing. And they are going to crush the division if you're Kevin Tompkins thinking that, which they won't. What the hell do you do with this? My favorite two players on this offense are Evan Ingram and Wayne Gallman. I don't know anybody else to say that I actually like.
Shepard, if you're looking for a floor, Shepard is always a decent floor play. Slayton, I want to be a thing, but he's too boom busty. I can't trust him. Besides that, I don't think you can confidently play anybody else.
Yeah, it's tough to trust Daniel Jones there, but Shepard is just an absolute rock solid, low end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3 that you can just plug in and get double digit points every week. I mean, yeah, Slayton, you can't really trust him. Certainly look at the beginning of the season. Evan Ingram, you have to play him just because of the state of the position. So it is what it is there. And Gallman is a guy that, he just keeps getting touchdowns and getting this work. And he's been, he's what they wanted Devontae Freeman to be, except, they didn't have to go out. They just had him sitting on the shelf there collecting dust. And now Saquon's out. Here comes Gallman, and he's been a perfectly serviceable running back too. And that's all you wanted out of them.
Completely. Dropped him in Scott Fish for some stupid reason, thinking Devontae was going to be back. And then I lost by 0.9 points, and I would have won if I had it. It's so annoying.
Womp.
Anyway, Cincinnati.
Womp.
I'm going to let you two discuss this. I want to know, Troy, then Kevin, how are you approaching this offense in a post Joe Burrow? Like pour one out, like it sucks. Dude looks like he was going to be one of the best rookie quarterbacks that we've seen, and here we are. So moving on to then Higgins, Boyd, AJ Green, Gio. What do you do with them?
They all take a significant hit. So, all right, I think that actually T. Higgins, I think gets hurt the worst out of all of them. I believe that. So Boyd, we have a limited sample size last year with Finley. Most of the games weren't that great. I think he had one really decent game with Finley. I believe that he might be relying on Boyd, as well as they're going to try to take pressure off of Finley, right? Even though the Bengals can't run the ball at all, they're going to try to. So I believe that Gio he might not be efficient, but they're at least going to try to give him some volume, probably to take pressure off of him. So I believe that Gio, he hasn't looked great, but I think they're going to use him out of necessity. So I'll play Gio. I'll play Boyd. Green and Higgins, I don't really want to touch if I don't have to.
Yeah, Higgins' range of outcomes is just widened significantly in this offense now with Ryan Finley. You look at the shorter A-dot wide receiver, and that's obviously Tyler Boyd. I mean, he's going to be the least affected. He's still a low-end wide receiver too. That's pretty much all you can trust out of their passing game right now. I mean, AJ Green, he was a drop candidate even before this all happened, and now I think that pretty much cements it for AJ Green. But yeah, Gio Bernard is a bottom of the barrel running back too, is volume dependent, and I hope he just falls he falls into the end zone and you get your maybe double digit points. That's pretty much all you're expecting and all you can expect with Ryan Finley led Bengals team. Good God.
Dude's got legs. Just kidding. He just happens to have them.
Hey, so do I.
Exactly.
So most of us do.
So let's move on to the LA Chargers at Buffalo. And if you guys will indulge me, I'm just going to say this. You're going to start Justin Herbert, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Hunter Henry, probably Kalen Ballage. We'll talk about Eckler in 1 second. And you're also going to start Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, probably John Brown, Zach Moss, and Devin Singletary. Did I miss anything from this game?
No. We covered pretty much everything there.
There's nothing. This is going to be a bonanza.
Yeah, well,
I think this will be the highest scoring game of the week.
Ooh, I don't know. I think so. I'll say my opinion when we get to the game.
Ooh, okay. Teaser for everybody that's still watching. And then Eckler was activated from IR. If you guys have anything to say about this game, we can. I think you're just starting everybody. Like this game.
You forgot the crowd favorite here.
Oh my God, I did forget Beasley. I absolutely love Beasley. I am the crowd in this sense.
Linda, my co-host, she's huge Beasley. She's been talking about Beasley. She's the only one that's been starting in pretty much since like week 1. She's a Beasley truther, which again, he's been solid. You know, he's been solid, especially in obviously full PPR leagues. Beasley's been killing it. So definitely,
he is already in my DFS lineup. I've only done one for the actual Sunday slate, and he is firmly entrenched. I think he was one of the first players I put in there. So I'm all aboard Beasley. Look at those locks, man. Luscious locks. Las Vegas Raiders at Atlanta. Man, this game is going to be interesting. I don't really know what to make of it. I don't even know who's going to win this. I would imagine it's going to be the Raiders, but Nelson Aguilar, welcome back out of obscurity. I think he probably was there already, but it still took yet another game. Anytime he has a dud, everybody's like, yeah, we knew that. It's like, no, like, dude's been pretty solid 4 out of 5 games. Like, stop giving him shit. He doesn't have pancakes for hands or whatever it's called. This offense looks good, right?
Wait, we gotta talk. Yeah, I'm about to say we gotta talk about that. I don't think that's a thing. The pancakes for hands. The pancakes.
Yeah, I meant to say frying pans. Actually, like coming out of Philly, everyone was like, he has frying pans for hands.
I didn't know that was a phrase, but I learned something new today.
Kevin, am I wrong here?
I've never heard of that, and I've lived in close-ish to Philly. I've never heard that. But Nelson Aguilar is Mr. Odd Week. If Matt Ryan is Mr. Even Year, Nelson Aguilar is Odd Week. He went 9 for 88 with a touchdown. And then he had 3 for 55 at a touchdown week 9 for 107 and a touchdown. So we're in an even week here. It might be a Henry Ruggs week or a Darren Waller week or somebody else. I don't know. Aguilar's not bad. He's pretty much the only other receiver outside of Darren Waller that you can trust with any sort of confidence. I mean, it's really hard to trust Hunter Renfrow, and it's hard to trust Henry Ruggs, certainly in this stage. But, I mean, throw up a couple deep shots and hope, the 50-50 ball gets at Aguilar. That's all you can do. But I think this game's going to be the highest scoring game of the week.
Man, that was what I was saving it for.
I knew it. I ruined it. All right, let's rewind it. All right, we'll get to take 2.
No, I'm just playing.
Troy, who do you think is going to be the highest scoring game of the week?
Well, since you guys haven't heard it yet, I believe it's going to be the Vegas Raiders and Atlanta Falcons. You heard it here.
Whoa, that's big time.
No,
definitely did not say that 30 seconds ago.
It's dependent, obviously, on Julio's health. If he's not healthy, that's obviously going to affect things because for whatever reason, Matt Ryan becomes extremely sucky anytime. It's like he doesn't become competent. When Julio's hurt, it's like he doesn't really know. I don't know. He just looks so much worse. Granted, obviously, he's one of the best receivers in the league, but you would think that they still have Calvin Ridley. You would think that the offense would still be able to function, well. And like Hayden Hurst, like last week, he had put up a goose egg. Like it just things don't make sense. And Gage got 12 targets last week, and hopefully that that could be replicated. But we'll see. I believe that Raiders have been extremely impressive this year. Derek Carr looks great, kind of like you guys referenced. I only like Aguilar, I only like Waller, but I think it could be really. And the Raiders defense is way better than Atlanta's defense, so I believe that Atlanta is going to have to throw a lot to keep up with the Raiders. It's weird saying that, but yeah, I believe it's going to be a really high scoring game.
I completely agree, and I have Twitter proof that Nelson Aguilar had frying pan hands. I just can't send you guys a screenshot right now, so egg on your face using the frying pan from his hands.
There's a teaser.
Atlanta, do you guys think Julio is going to play?
Why? I believe that there's no point. I feel like right now we're getting close to the end of the season. He has a hammy. You guys aren't going anywhere. It would be smart to sit him. For my fantasy team, I'd like him to play, but as an organization, it makes no sense to just push him. So,
yeah, I think you gotta. At some point, you just have to pack it in. I mean, Atlanta's not doing anything. Atlanta's not, certainly relevant in the scheme of things. They're not going to be contending. So, I mean, why continue to put out a 31-year-old with hamstring repeated soft tissue injuries? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. If you want to keep him another couple years, why run him into the ground?
Yeah, completely agree. I think you're probably starting Gurley. You might be starting Gage. Hurst put up a dud. That kind of sucks. So at this point, it looks like a Ridley and Gurley game, and maybe Matt Ryan if you want to go back to him.
Brian Hill out snap Todd Gurley, by the way, last week. So that's something interesting, but whether you hold stock into that, and clearly Troy doesn't, and I don't really know if I do either, but I'm not big on Todd. I mean, he's really just your touchdown, you have to depend on a touchdown. That's pretty much every RB2, isn't it? Hope he gets into the end zone. I mean, other than the guys that are, going to be receiving the ball and stuff like that, you're just hoping a guy falls in the end zone. That is an RB2 if you look that up in the dictionary.
Yes, completely. All right. We're going to move on to the Niners at the Rams. Rams are going to smash. Niners are going to get their ass kicked. I don't care what anybody says. I'm a diehard Niners fan, by the way, in case you didn't know that, Troy. Ayuk's literally the only person on this offense that I would even consider starting in this game. Maybe McKinnon if you were stuck in a pinch. I don't think there's much to say on that side of the ball. They'll scheme up some stuff and it'll be cool, but like last time they played this game, they had Debo and his ADOT was -4. So it
There
was
you
a
go.
wild game.
Well, then I believe that they're activating Mostert and Jeff Wilson this week. So if Mostert's playing on Sunday, I'll play him with
Hell
Ayuk.
yeah.
Besides that, you're right. I'm not really interested in. What about Jordan Reed? Jordan Reed, with tight end is gross. I mean, I'm not playing Ross Dwelly, so I don't know. Maybe if you're in a deep league, you might have worse options. So something to think about.
I should say, sorry, Brandon Ayuk's on the COVID list, so we don't even know if he's going to be able to play. Hopefully, he gets some negative tests in, and it was just close contact and nothing actually having it. Yeah, we'll see about Mostert. I don't even know what the hell they're doing at this point of the year. The only way I can see the Niners winning a game rest of the season is if is against the Washington team and against the Cowboys, maybe, but they would have to have Mostert in both of those because Mostert's that good, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The Rams. Are there any Rams running back that you are willing to play in this game?
I don't have a 3-sided coin, or else I'd flip it.
Kind of like what Kevin said. The problem is just we don't know what they're going to do. Like, again, it's just so messy. But it's always like Sean McVay said it was going to be like that. They said it was going to be a 3-headed monster. He didn't lie. It's a 3-headed monster. You want Akers to take the job, but the problem is that is it going to happen? He scored last week, so it's like, hey, but that doesn't erase, everything we're looking for. So, I mean, I prefer not to play any of them, but not everyone has that luxury. So they're flex options, I guess, if you have to play it. But hopefully, I'm not playing Malcolm Brown. So if you're going to play it, and I'll play Akers. If I'm going to play any of them, it's going to be Akers. Otherwise, I'd rather look for other options.
Yep.
Yeah, it's about where I'm at.
And I'm going to actually start all 3 wide receivers, Cooper, Kupp, and Kupp, Woods, and Reynolds. Sorry. And I think that Higbee could have a good game. It's a crapshoot with him whether or not I actually put in the show doc. I think I have a great game, and I realized that's strong.
Great game for a tackle, maybe. Sure.
Yeah, exactly. So let's move on to the Saints at Troy's beloved Denver Broncos.
Wow.
You're trying to push him out of here, man.
I want to know your guys' thoughts on Taysom Hill. Kevin, go first, and then we'll go with Troy.
I mean, Taysom Hill
from last week and then going into this week.
Taysom Hill's a Konami code, man. I mean, as long as he's starting, you got to start him. He's a top 12 guy for me this week. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. I think I may have him at quarterback 7. So, I mean, Taysom Hill, as long as he's, Mike, we saw a good week from Michael Thomas. Who knew that was going to be what unlocked Michael Thomas this season was Taysom freaking Hill. So, I mean, as long as he is in the lineup and as long as he is starting, aside from any kind of funny business with Jameis Winston, whether that happens or not, Taysom Hill has to be started in every league as a quarterback because ESPN now can't play him in the flex, can't play him at tight end. He is a quarterback, QB.
So I played him as a QB last week, and he's impressive. Don't get me wrong, he was efficient with his passing. I didn't think he wasn't off the charts as a passer, but when a 30-year-old, his first start, I mean, he did what he needed to do. I'm going to give him credit where it's like for fantasy, he rushed the ball, he was efficient, he was smart and kept targeting Michael Thomas. So he was impressive. He did what he needed to do. And I don't see, unless you have one of the top 5 quarterbacks, I'm gonna play Taysom Hill. They say he's a Konami code. He has decent matchups going forward. Denver's defense is decent, but I'm not gonna sit Taysom Hill. I'm gonna play him, and it's weird saying that, but as a quarterback. But yeah, I'm playing Taysom Hill. If he's not throwing the ball, he's gonna be rushing the ball. He's a solid start.
All right. And with him, Alvin Kamara did well, and so did Michael Thomas. But I want to know, are you interested in starting Manny Sanders or Jared Cook? Either one?
Nah.
Definitely not Cook. Definitely not Cook. Cook is down trending big time. in this offense as far as usage and as far as just stats he's putting up. So, I have no interest in him. I would like to see them use Troutman more, see what they have with him. Granted, it's it's in a unique situation. It's probably not going to be what the offense is next year, but I would still like to see more of. Could be. Who knows? That's the wild thing. But I would like to see more of Troutman. I want to see a small school guy out of Dayton. I believe he already has a touchdown on the year. I want to see more of him, not dusty ass Jared Cook.
Completely. To the other side of the ball. I don't know what to make of this team in any way. Like Melvin Gordon should have had 3 touchdowns. Well, not should have, but almost had 3 touchdowns. Lindsey looked awesome. They're going up against the Saints team that's had allowed 1 passing touchdown in I think their last 3 games. They are on fire as a defense right now. So what do you do with Denver's starters? I don't even know what more of a question to ask than that. So I'm just going to lob that giant question up there. What do you do with Denver's offense?
I would say that you don't want to play anybody. Definitely not Drew Lock, even though my Avi said he's elite.
Don't get it twisted.
Yeah, you're not playing him. I guess if you're going to play anybody, Tim Patrick has been a surprise, but the problem is that the Saints defense is too good. Like, if you have no other options, I guess you can flex him, but I'm not excited to play Patrick. I don't want to play anybody. If you're going to play someone, maybe you're hoping for Lindsey just because he's so electric, but I prefer not to touch anyone on the offense.
Kevin?
I'll take Noah Fant. I mean, at a gross position with upside. I mean, that's pretty much it, though. I mean, Tim Patrick, he's been a lot, much improved from last year. And now, obviously, without Courtland Sutton, he's been almost the de facto of Courtland Sutton in that offense. So, I like him a little bit as a flex play now that we're out of the at least for this week, out of the buys. It gets a little bit harder to start him because you have your full complement, but I don't mind him in a pinch if I've got injured guys, and I'll just throw someone out there knowing he's probably going to get about 5-6 targets, at least a couple deep shots.
Yeah, completely. I agree with all that stuff. So Kansas City at Tampa Bay. It's funny. I was writing this show doc while watching the Rams Bucks game, and I even wrote in here, going to be a fun game looking at a possible Super Bowl matchup. I can't say that that's not the case anymore, but I think the Rams just show that the Bucks probably aren't going to be a Super Bowl team. Not saying the Rams are, but I think that the Bucks just they have holes. So I don't even like KC is just another one of those, like, you start your big 4. So you're starting Mahomes, Kelsey, Hill, and CEH. Is there anybody else? If you had to pick the 5th player that tends to go off, there's usually a 5th. This particular week, do you have one person you can go with, just even a 1-word answer if you want?
If Sammy Watkins is playing, I actually would not mind taking a shot at him in deeper leagues.
I agree.
Yeah, I like that. I do like DeMarcus Robinson a bit too. He tends to in the higher profile games, he tends to pop off too. I mean, it's really hard to trust Harmon, with as far as I can throw him, and that ain't far. Byron Pringle, whatever. Robinson or Watkins, but if Watkins is playing, I mean, I'll take a shot on him.
On the Tampa Bay side of the ball, I'm starting Evans, Godwin, and Brown probably. I'm starting Rojo and Fournette, and I'm starting Brady. Is there any one of them that you are particularly hesitant to start?
Hesitant? What I want to know, Brady. Oh yeah, I'll say Brady. But what I want to know is, I'm Rojo. So Leonard Fournette dropped 3 passes, and he didn't get benched. Rojo, if he drops 1, he doesn't see the field again. So I don't know what the heck that was yesterday. That made no sense. But so I guess Rojo, just because of if he doesn't score a touchdown, again, for whatever reason, they use it between the 20s, but if he doesn't score a touchdown, I don't know how much of his upside. He has to, again, make like a 98-yard touchdown for himself to put up fantasy points. So that's the only one I would be a little hesitant on. I'm not playing Fournette even though he scored. So I'm willing to play all 3 wide receivers, though.
I want to counter that and just say that I think that game was much farther apart in terms of team versus team than the score showed. I think that the Rams were handedly working the Bucks, even if the score didn't end up more than 7 points apart or whatever it was. So that's why I think Leo was left in the game, because the week before when Rojo had a 98-yard touchdown run, he did have a fumble and they didn't pull him. But that was because they felt like the game was kind of in their hands. So I know. I think that's just an Arians thing. The problem is nobody knows what the hell the psychology of Arians is, because he ate too many paint chips as a kid. You guys don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry.
Of course I do.
Okay.
I know, that was funny.
It's like an actual story he's said before, that he used to like drink paint when he was younger and stuff. Anyway, part of my take, another podcast, a big podcast. So let's just move on to the Chicago Bears and Kevin's roaring Green Bay Packers. Yeah. Let's start with Chicago before we get to the hapless Packers. And who the hell is going to be the QB for the Bears? I honestly, I don't know right now. Do you think that there is an odds-on favorite if it's going to be Foles, Trubisky, or other?
If Foles is healthy, which I don't know if he is. So yeah. I don't know if he is, but if he's healthy, he's playing. If not, it's going to be Trubisky, even though I actually think that Trubisky surprisingly might give the offense some juice, just because Foles has not looked good. Trubisky, he looked like we know Trubisky, he's gross, but we can't forget that in recent memory, he's had like a 5 touchdown or 6 touchdown game. I forgot what it was. Like, he has the ability to explode. We don't know when that's going to happen, but he has the ability to have these random blow up games. You don't really get that too much from Foles. We've seen Foles just, he's as good as he's going to get. So, but if he's healthy, he's going to start. If not, it's going to be Trubisky.
Hey, still declining to name a starter.
Yeah. I don't know. Who cares? I hope it's Trubisky so we can just absolutely tunnel vision to Allen Robinson, so Jair can get 3 picks in that game.
So I was going to say, so what do you do with Allen Robinson this week when you don't know which QB it's going to be? I don't know if either QB makes a difference for Allen Robinson. I think Foles was a little bit better for him, but going against Jair Alexander, are you nervous about starting Allen Robinson this week?
A little, but you gotta play him. Like, I don't think I'm gonna sit in almost any circumstance. I'm not gonna sit Allen Robinson.
Yeah, same. Quarterback independent. He's not super Terry McLaurin, who it doesn't matter. I could be throwing in the ball and dude will still pull off 7 for 90 and a touchdown. Allen Robinson is pretty much that guy where, it doesn't matter who's in front of him, who's throwing in the ball. The dude's just going to produce and get volume. You can't sit him on really under any circumstance, barring injury.
I was about to say Terry is just Allen Robinson's younger brother. Like, let's not forget who Allen Robinson was.
Allen Robinson wears Terry McLaurin pajamas to bed.
Wild. I don't know if I even need to ask this. You guys can just say irrelevant. Is there a running back for Chicago that we should be thinking about? I don't actually know if David Montgomery's going to play. I think I'm just assuming he's not. I think he's on IR. Excuse me.
If you're in a deep league, Patterson. Here's the thing, in stuff like sleeper, he's running back, wide receiver eligible. So again,
Montgomery was back at practice, so my apologies. He was not on IR. It was just a concussion. So it looks like Montgomery's going to play. So I think we could probably skip that question, because if Montgomery's there, he's the go-to. Right. So my apologies. So for the Packers, obviously it's Aaron Jones and it's Devontae Adams. Like, that's not ever going to be a question. My 2 questions are MVS and Jamal Williams. Will you put either or both in your lineup? Kevin, let's start with you. Ooh, Troy already said no.
Hold on. No.
Okay.
That's my 0 RB coin, by the way, that I drafted in the FF Down Under Bowl to help me guide whether I was going to draft a running back or not. And I finally drafted one like the 7th round.
And I disagree with you both. I think that MVS is deserving of a start. I think that they are looking for him on these deep catches, and he would have had a touchdown if it wasn't for that PI. Even though it was I don't know about the PI actual call, but it definitely was there was entanglement there, and I think MVS would have had it.
Against this defense in this economy?
He did it against the Colts in that economy.
I don't know.
I'm
diehard Packer fan. Don't get me wrong, but God, I cannot wait to see them move on from MVS. It's just when he's on, he's great. Yeah, that 2 touchdown game, whatever. But I mean, he is literally a 50-50 ball. I think his catch rate is 50% or like 49. So he is literally a coin flip. That's why I flipped this coin. So, I'd rather not have a 2 for 9 game. If he doesn't go off. So, just saying. Super high variance. He has a 0 floor.
I'm here for it. Alan Lazard, I actually completely forgot to even put him in the show doc. Do you think that, this was his first game coming back from his core surgery and stuff? Do you think that he has any role here if you think that the Bears defense is that good to try and take away some of the other pieces?
I don't want to play him against the Bears. I believe maybe in future matchups, but I'm going to sit him this week.
Yeah, he's working his way in. Core muscle surgery is tough to deal with. So, expecting him to just come in and be a wide receiver 3, it's really not fair. I think, give him a couple weeks and, I think he'll be learning how to play with that. Because it's not just something where, he's back and he's 100%. He's not 100%. So just give him a couple weeks. If you see, he had 4 targets last week, 2 for 18. So it's going to be a process. If this is what he's going to do the next couple weeks, he's probably a safe drop. But he's got upside. It's the Packers offense with revenge tour Aaron Rodgers. So, I would take him over MVS, rest of the season, given the state of this offense. But right now he's a tough proposition to throw in a lineup.
All right. Before we move into the next game, I just have a question for you, Troy. Do you know if Myles Gaskin is going to play this week?
I haven't seen him activated off IR yet, so we'll see. I've been monitoring it because if he's healthy, we know he's going to be the guy. But it looks like it's going to be Ahmed this week. As far as I know, I don't see him. I haven't heard anything in terms of Gaskins just yet, so it's going to be Ahmed week again.
The only reason I did that, I was Googling Chris Carson just to see what the latest news was for him, and Myles Gaskin was thrown into the same kind of line, same decision as whether or not he'd be back. So Seattle at Philly, and I don't think there's much to say here other than will Chris Carson play? I think that's your only decision.
Yeah, I thought he was sort of close last week, but I think he actually plays. I feel like he's got enough time. It's a Monday night game. The problem is that you got to check those practice reports because if you're starting somebody, you might want to play it safe. Again, it really depends on how he looks the rest of the week in terms of practice. But on Sunday, if it's still like a game time decision, I'm going to go with somebody else. I don't want to take that risk.
Yeah, Monday game, so...
Yeah, if you're roster construction, if you're waiting on a flex and you got Jalen Reagor or something like that, where it's probably an equal, guy that with a decision or a Fulgham, I would make that swap if Carson's active. But I would play it safe here if you're not fortunate to at least have another option in this game.
Completely. You're obviously starting DK, Lockett, and Wilson. That's not even a question. And Olsen is out with an injury, so he probably might have even been his last injury of his playing career. I'm still not going to be trusting a tight end there. Deep sleep if you want on Hollister or even Disley, even deeper. Philadelphia, Kevin, put on a helmet, whatever you have, protective gear, because I just have to ask you, what the hell do we do with terrible Carson Wentz?
God, you asked me this and I'm in Fargo and I have a window right there and people are going to start throwing stuff at me. If I slander Carson Wentz, I am contractually obligated, by the way, Troy, to not say anything negative about Carson Wentz. So he tries to bait me every week. No, it's tough to really trust Carson Wentz here, but with everybody healthy, this was the perfect spot for him to go, all right, I can elevate these guys. And, you have Fulgham and you have Rager and you have Goddard coming back, Miles Sanders, all these awesome players. And now he is the one holding all of them back. So, and granted, the offensive line too. I mean, I should give, it's not all on Carson Wentz.
Give credit where credit's due.
The uncredit where uncredit is definitely due. Yeah, so it's tough. You can't really start him against even Seattle. I guess you could stream him, but it's gross to me.
Yeah. So what are you going to do with the pass catchers? Fulgham now is kind of screwed over owners for quite a couple weeks now. And, we have Dallas Goedert, the resurgence of, and you have Jalen Reagor. So rank the pass catchers, and we're starting Miles Sanders. So for anybody like that's not a question. So last question: rank the pass catchers, and that includes tight ends and wide receivers, and who you would actually start. Make that note too. So Troy.
Okay, so for the Eagles, Goddard might be my favorite option. I feel like Goddard had a good week last week. Coming back from his injury. I feel like Goddard's the main guy. I think Goddard, then Fulgham, then Rager. I think that's what I'll do. Goddard, Fulgham, Rager. Everything else is crapshoot.
And so you would start those three if you had to, or Fulgham, Rager.
Yeah, I would start because Seattle's defense has been playing decent recently, but I feel like they're still not a great defense. So yeah, I would.
Kevin.
Goddard's a clear one for me. Rager, was on him pretty much the entire offseason and thought he was just going into a ready-made situation here. Obviously he got hurt, so now he's starting to just get his bones back about him now. So I think Rager can be that number one in that offense, but right now I think he's the two, and I would still feel confident starting him. Fulgham is kind of backslid a little bit. I think that might be just more of an adjustment period for him now that he's been getting, being a focal point in that offense, and now with those guys, he's kind of seeing where he fits within that offense. So, I'm kind of hesitant on trotting Fulgham out there, I should say. But other than that, I mean, we know Jeffrey's back, but what's he really going to do? Greg Ward is Greg Ward, low floor, gets like 4 targets a game. Yeah. Can't really depend on any of those guys. I mean, hey, Richard Rodgers, there you go. Boom. If Goddard's going to be blocking, there you go. There's your tight end 4.
Which won't be this game. All right, well, that's the slate. Troy, again, thank you so much for joining us. Sorry I ran a little bit late. I appreciate you sticking through it. And why don't you tell everybody where they can see you again, anybody that kind of missed that at the intro.
Of course. Well, you guys can find me at TKingMode on Twitter. Again, I'm a writer for BallBlast Football, so you can check out my work on the website, as well as I'm one of the co-hosts of Fantasy Football Confidential. We air on Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And again, thank you guys so much for inviting me, having me on the show, and I appreciate everybody who's been supporting me.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate it, Troy. I'm glad we actually got to get you on here and get to actually talk to you and meet you. And it's been a pleasure. And you're one of my favorite people to follow on social media. Just always positive and always your Photoshop skills are second to none.
I try, man. Yeah, I'm an artist. That's
right. Absolutely. So, yeah, my man, appreciate you coming on with us, chop it up here. Gary, anything else before we hit the bricks?
No, man. I just got to check out the Photoshop skills now.
You definitely got to. Absolutely. 100%.
It's beautiful.
Put that in the Louvre. Put it all in the Louvre.
Hey, to both of you, just in case I don't talk to you, Kevin, as if we don't talk constantly, happy Thanksgiving to you and your families and everything, and have a great time. And hopefully we'll get to talk some shop about DFS in the next couple days. Guarantee you I will be doing a bazillion lineups. So
absolutely. Happy Thanksgiving to you guys, and happy Thanksgiving to all of you who are listening and watching us. Appreciate the support. Go to fightingchancefantasy.com for rankings. They will be up later tonight, actually, because it's Tuesday, and usually I'm doing that, but they'll be up later on tonight. So go check those out. But yeah, we got waivers coming out. We got an article with myself, Corey, Leo, and Steve Rappin. So go check that out. Otherwise, for Troy, Gary, I'm Kevin Tompkins of fightingchancefantasy.com, and we will see you later. Good night.